Karl Wilhelm Naundorff, whose date of birth is unknown, was a Prussian clockmaker who became famous for pretending to be the Dauphin Louis Charles, also known as Louis XVII. Naundorff, who was known in France as Charles-Guillaume Naundorff, appeared in Berlin at the end of 1810, where he lived a quiet life working as a clockmaker to earn a living. For an unknown reason, he was summoned to the police headquarters to be interrogated. During interrogations, Naundorff stated that he was born in Weimar and that he was 43 years old. But Naundorff only had the appearance of a young man about 25 years old. He was questioned further by suspicious police officers, and at this point, Naundorff declared for the first time that he was Louis XVII, the son of Louis XVI and Marie-Antoinette. Naundorff claimed to have escaped from the Tour du Temple in 1795 and that he was now seeking protection from the Napoleonic troops. After the French troops retreated, Naundorff wrote to the King of Prussia and the Emperors of Austria and Russia to lay down his claim to the crown of France, but he was never answered. So, Naundorff sent a letter to Marie-Thérèse of France, the only surviving child of Louis XVI, but once again Naundorff did not receive an answer. After a while, Naundorff again wrote to Madame Royale and to Charles-Ferdinand d'Artois, Duke of Berry, his so-called cousin and son of Charles X, and stated in his letter that he did not want to lay any claims to the throne, but simply wanted his name and his title to be returned to him. On November 19, 1818, Naundorff married Johanna Friederike Einert, also known in France as Jeanne-Frédérique Einert. The couple lived in Spandau until 1822, where Naundorff lost all of his possessions during a fire. The authorities accused him of having started the fire himself. Furthermore, he was accused of taking part in counterfeit activities, for which he was sentenced to a prison sentence of 3 years. Naundorff was released from prison in 1828 and moved to Crossen, a small town on the border with Silesia, where he managed to convince more people that he was Louis XVII. The King of Prussia, who was not at all convinced by Naundorff's claims, decided to have him arrested. Naundorff was tipped off about the upcoming arrest and fled, abandoning his wife and children. Via Switzerland, he arrived in Paris on May 26, 1833. He soon obtained a group of supporters who formed a semblance of a court around him. A meeting was arranged with Madame Agathe de Rambaud, the official nurse of the children of Louis XVI and Marie-Antoinette. De Rambaud was convinced Naundorff was indeed Louis XVII. Other previous courtiers also claimed to recognize Louis XVII in Naundorff, in particular the husband of Madame de Rambaud, the Marquise de Broglio-Solari, Étienne de Joly, and the former secretary of Louis XVI, Monsieur Brémond. In his book about Madame Vigée-Lebrun, the author Hubert Royet mentions that Naundorff may have been a servant to Madame Vigée-Lebrun. From Elisabeth Vigée-Lebrun, having been the painter from Marie-Antoinette until 1789, Naundorff could have learned a great deal about the royal family. On June 12, 1836, Naundorff launched a summons claiming his part of the inheritance to Charles X and the Duchess of Angoulême. Although Naundorff had been tolerated in Paris until then, the prospect of a lawsuit against the deposed King Charles X and the daughter of Louis XVI caused a huge scandal. The French government decided that they had had enough and Naundorff was arrested. On June 15, 1836, Naundorff was thrown into prison and the police confiscated 202 documents in the possession of Naundorff that so-called proved he was Louis XVII. After 26 days in prison, Naundorff was deported to England. After his deportation, Naundorff tried to earn a living as a preacher and as an explosives researcher. In London, his activities became increasingly eccentric, with one of his ventures aimed at founding a spiritual movement based on his mystical experiences. Naundorff pretended to be a messiah. Later, he tried to design a perfect detonation mechanism called the Bourbon bomb. His discovery failed and his house burned down, with Naundorff suffering severe burns. Because of all these failures, he ran out of money and in 1843 he was put in prison by his creditors. The Dutch Ministry of War showed interest in the Bourbon bomb and bought it from Naundorff. He was also invited to continue his research in the Netherlands. After serving his prison sentence, Naundorff left for the Netherlands in January 1845, where he was appointed director of the pyrotechnic atelier in Delft by Wilhelm II. However, Naundorff died in August of that year. He was buried in the General Cemetery Kalverbos in Delft. His grave is not marked with his name Karl Wilhelm Naundorff, but has a marking in French. Here rests Charles-Louis de Bourbon, Duke of Normandy, Louis XVII. Naundorff's grave can still be visited. Naundorff's claims have been the subject of much historical and scientific controversy. The descendants of Naundorff still have a number of supporters, nicknamed Naundorffists, and bear the surname de Bourbon, the use of which was granted to them by the Netherlands. In 1943, a sample of Naundorff's hair was compared to a lock of the Dauphin's hair. At the time, it was concluded that the two samples have the same peculiar medullary canal, an argument which prompted many of the Naundorff supporters to feel strengthened in their belief that Naundorff was indeed Louis XVII. However, a second test in 1951 made scientists reconsider their first results, and their conclusions were revised. The peculiarity on the hair affected 1 in 3 persons, and the similarity was therefore considered to be a coincidence. In 1998, DNA analysis was carried out. After a study of Naundorff's mitochondrial DNA and his right humerus taken from his grave in 1950, and the comparison to the mitochondrial DNA from the hair of descendants in the maternal line of Maria Theresia of Austria, the conclusion was drawn that Naundorff was not Louis XVII. In 1999, the heart, which was taken in 1795 by Pelletan after the autopsy of Louis XVII, and which is preserved in the crypt of the Basilica de Saint-Denis in Paris, was subjected to DNA analysis by the same scientific team. On April 19, 2000, during a press conference, the science team declared that the comparison of the DNA shows beyond a reasonable doubt that the heart kept in the crypt came from a child who was connected in the maternal line to the House of Habsburg. For more information about Louis XVII or Pelletan who removed the boy's heart, please click on the link you see in your upper right corner. The DNA analysis of the heart of the child who died at the Tour du Temple is disputed by Naundorffists, as they claim that it could have belonged to the older brother of Louis XVII, Louis-Joseph, the first Dauphin, who died of illness at the age of 8 in 1789. However, the heart of Louis-Joseph was embalmed according to royal tradition, while that of Louis XVII was preserved in alcohol, which immediately makes any mix-up impossible. Furthermore, the heart of Louis-Joseph was lost after the Revolution, and thus it is very unlikely that the heart preserved in the royal crypt of the Basilica of Saint-Denis is the heart of Marie-Antoinette's eldest son. In 2004, a contradictory analysis was commissioned by the descendants of Karl Wilhelm Naundorff. Naundorff was exhumed again, and analysis was performed directly on Naundorff's skeleton. However, the Bourbon-Naundorff family never published the results of these tests. This concludes today's video about Karl Wilhelm Naundorff. I hope to see you next week for a new video. Thanks for watching.